In the end, remember it is the physical body that we are talking about. It does have impact from physical to subtle, but remember the subtle is more powerful. One can say that yes, it's good to have practices around food and drink to improve that, but not get too obsessed about it. Whatever can't be fixed or optimized in physical food and physical body wise, one can work on at energetic level. And even though it is subtle and is not tangible for most, the subtle and energetic level, the effect of energetic level goes much more than the physical level. So if you work on primarily on your physical body, it will have impact on the subtle bodies. But if you work on the subtle bodies, it will definitely have impact on your physical body. It might take a while and the effect might not be noticeable immediately. For example, if you have alcohol, you get drunk immediately or in a very short period of time. So you can deduce very easily that, okay, if I drink alcohol, I'll get drunk. That immediate reaction and you can see it. But the way the energetic body works is a little different. It's a little subtle and its effect may not be as obvious or as clear immediate time, but it does work and it goes long. Its effect lasts longer. So yes, we are living in this day and age where we have to source food from outside sometimes. We have to eat outside sometimes. And I was very happy to see that some people are very conscious of it and want to be eating food that they themselves prepare. And it's considered very important and very sacred. Even there's a saying that a swapati, or the person who cooks the food and then eats it mindfully, that person's darshan or even looking at that person is auspicious. This is. So obviously it is a very considered important factor. Who is cooking your food, where you are sourcing the food. So all these things, in a very ideal situation, what you would do is you would have a land, you would grow some seed yourself, you will harvest those seeds and you will crush them or make bread or make porridge and then you'll eat it. Now how many of us are living in a place or in circumstances where we can do it from the source up, where we ourselves plant the food that we eat and cook and the whole process of growing the food and eating and disposing also, by the way. And that's fine. Nobody's expecting one to live like a hermit in a forest, although I know that many of us do. Nobody is expecting to be growing all the food or quitting whatever one is doing and going and living in an ashram or some hermitage or something. Nobody is expecting anybody to do that. So how do we do it? Well, we do by making sure that whatever we eat is consciously chosen to the best possible way in given time, place and circumstances. No need to get all too obsessed that, okay, this is not there, what do I do? How do I need to change my life dramatically? No. What you can do instead is have some other ways to reset. Some people are already doing that with fasting. Remember that the body has its own natural way of recovering from any onslaught or exploit or bad food or drink or anything. And that body automatically starts to do when you don't give it food. And that is why fasting is very important. People who have some heard of India and Hindu yogis and have probably heard of somebody called Aghoris, like who lives in cremation ground. Now there is often a big misconception that Aghoris are supposed to eat human, but that's just a misconception. A true Aghori eats one's own body. And how do you eat your own body? Is by fasting. When you fast for a given period of time, say in a day, after a day, what happens is the body starts to eat itself by taking out the toxin and whatever the dead cell is there, it starts to consume and disintegrate that to get some energy out. And that is what eating oneself is. And that is very powerful thing to do because it resets the body completely. The body's immunity system improves, and whatever toxin one has taken in through eating habits or being exposed to certain environment can be reset by it. And that is very important practice. So we would highly encourage that if you have not tried fasting, try it out. If not full day or more, start gradually. Or where now we hear that there's very commonly accepted way of fasting is intermittent fasting, where one fasts for 16 hours and eats in the remaining hour. That can also be something one can start doing. And over a period of time, having longer fasting is also very good. In nature, what we have seen is rhythm that is most important. Seasons come and go. Sometimes it is spring where birds are chirping and leaves are sprouting, and then after a while it is dark winter where trees have shed their leaves, and every animal and birds are looking for a way to minimize their physical activity. Some even hibernate. And then again spring comes and it becomes alive again. So nature follows rhythm, and that rhythm is considered very sacred. And to be in line with that rhythm is also very important. Now, with the change in our lifestyle, with modern technologies, which has definitely made our lives easier and comfortable, but to a large extent it has even separated us from that natural rhythm. And that has a lot to do with artificial light also. We live in artificial light where we don't wake up and sleep with the natural light, and which is okay. That's the way it is now. Nobody can go back to that. So the best way is the Tantra way, where one incorporates things in one's life and see how one can optimize everything. So in that rhythm, just like nature goes through different cycles, we have something called Navratri, or the 9 nights that we celebrate in various ways, different rituals people do. But what is most important to know is that it is during those times that the nature also resets and unwinds and start afresh. And that happens 4 times a year. So doing fasting during that time is also considered very beneficial. If you want to change your life in a particular way, if you want to change a habit, if you want to reset your body, if you want to reset your mind, or whatever you want to refresh, then doing fasting, doing contemplations, meditation more during these times are considered more aligned with nature, and it helps a lot. That also one can look into, because you can only do so much with food, by the way. We were just looking at something online, we were searching, and we saw that there was an experiment done where a person gave the poop for examination in a lab, and what they found out was that microplastic, we have all heard about, that microplastic is everywhere, that it's in the air, it's in the clothes, it's all around us, plastics, and that disintegrates into very tiny microplastics. Now, when the person gave the poop even to examine, they found out different microplastic in that, nylons and polymers and all sorts of things, like from cloth, from food packaging, all sorts of even came out in one's excreta. So imagine what is there in the body. We don't even know how much microplastic we have in our body, and we don't even know what all effect it is doing. So we are in a totally different time frame right now, where we don't even know fully, we don't even have data fully to understand the impact of this lifestyle, how it affects us. So how do we deal with it? Well, we deal with it as it is. We accept to the possible way. We try to reset as much as possible, and we try to follow the good practices as much as possible. And then that is the physical aspect of it. And then we try to be more and more focused on developing energetically, because that goes a long way. It is the Ojas that is the most important. And Ojas is your vital energy. Your overall well-being is controlled by that. Food that we eat contributes to that, but there is even more. And when one can tap into that source of energy, then the body's restorative power increases. And the impact of that Ojas can go along. We have had people who consume all sorts of crazy things in life and yet maintain a very high awareness and very good presence and practice spiritual reality because of their high amount of ojas they have. So there's a saying in Hindi that samrat ko dosh nahi. That means that when one is capable, when one has the power, then a lot of things do not impact. So the power, we are not talking about like becoming like powerful dictators, talking about the inner spiritual power, the ojas. And when one develops that, then a lot of impact of the food and drinks can be easily overcome by that. So bottom line is that yes, good practice is important, but at the same time we should not get too hankered on, and we should try to improve the inner ojas by doing other practices around it. Or actually, a couple of people talked about eating food before sundown or not eating heavy meal during the night. Now it's very interesting and nice to see that people have this idea through reading or intuitively understanding what works for them. And yes, that is actually a very good practice to do, to have dinner early. And I've seen here in Sweden at least that people do that. Unlike in India nowadays, even though it should be more common in India, but in modern time in India it's not so common. Or in Spain, when we were there also is the habit of eating quite late. But here in Sweden, what we have seen is that people have dinner quite early, very much aligned with what we talk about having dinner early on and not having very heavy food before sleep. So that is very important, and it's good to see that people are already doing that. And if people who are not doing that can also think about it if they can adjust the life. Because it's not possible for everybody to have early dinner. Maybe they are working, maybe they have to go to work. So that's okay. Try to do as much as you can and balance it out by doing other practices that compensates for it. About food, remember that you are eating the food. It's becoming part of you. So it's very profound process. So it's important to not take it lightly. And how one eats the food is also important. Where one eats the food is also important. And in that, we already talked about that who is cooking the food is also very important. But sometimes we don't have control over that. We are probably eating outside. How do we do it? How do we deal with it? By making sure that they have their own utensil even to eat. It's probably not practical for everybody, but we know that it can be done, and there are many who do it, that they carry their own bowl with them, and when they take food, whatever they consume, they eat it from their own utensil and have a relation with their utensil. They consecrate it. Some people even make some yantra on their utensil and have that as an offering to the body. Remember that the food is offered to the body as a yajna. Many of you have probably already been familiar with fire rituals or have seen people put or offer some things in the fire and with some mantra. Now that is an external fire ritual, but even more important is the internal fire ritual, where you take a morsel of food and you put it in your mouth, which is digested by your digestive fire. So that is also a yajna. And it's very important to be aware that you are actually doing a ritual. It is a ritual. Eating is a ritual. And what you are talking about is the mantra. What you are thinking about while eating is the mantra through which you are making that offering. So becoming aware that how you are eating it and having a good conscious presence to the food and to the process of eating is going to help in overall well-being of the mind. And in that process will change life completely. Remember, the food becomes you. So whatever you eat, the food quality is not just the physical quality of the food, but also the subtler aspect of the food, the energetic aspect of the food, and all impact you. And it has a direct relation with your mind and your overall well-being. So that also is another way one can look at it and see how one can incorporate such aware food eating habits. We are discovering in science also, where I don't know if you have heard of it, there was an expression still used about gut feeling. Like, what is your gut telling you? People use that as a sort of synonymous with intuition. And now we have discovered that it is the gut microbes that has a big impact on how we even think. I used to joke about it, with people that if you eat too much pizza, then you will crave more pizza, because probably the gut bacteria in your tummy, when you eat a lot of pizza and white bread and cheese, certain kind of bacteria get cultivated and they start feeding on that, and if they are not given the same kind of food with cheese and bread, then they will crave for that and will send the signal to the brain to go find that food and give it. So the gut brain and the main brain connection is now well known, and that has an impact. It's not just about certain caricatured way of understanding food's impact, but also about internally. When we have a good gut health, it also supports a very calm outlook. And when one eats here and there, eats different kind of food, then it can impact it. And resetting the gut becomes very important. We talked about fasting earlier. That definitely helps in resetting the gut and resetting the body. And also other practices around it. There are some yogic practices that we do from time to time ourselves as well. Shankh Prakshalan. When we talk about food and drink, we have to also talk about food for the mind. How much information is available in the world today? You go to YouTube, you search anything, no matter what you can think of in this wide world. Anything you can think, you will find that there are many videos where people have already talked about it. There is no shortage of information anymore. And that is good in a way, that all information is accessible. But at the same time, it also has its own negative side, that so much information is available that your mind probably will not be able to focus on what is important, or your mind may not absorb the right information amongst the noise. That happens with too much information, that it's difficult to separate noise from what is really resonating with you. And in the least, it becomes a habit of passively consuming information that one puts on, just like what was the expression, the couch potatoes. One puts on the TV and let the entertainment come, and you are passively taking it in. And that's not good food for the mind. Giving good food for the mind is also very important, because that is subtler aspect than just physical food. So it's also important that we are mindful of that. What food are we giving to our mind?